Hi, this one's number 5. Better go back to yellow, I think, a little clearer. Okay, we ended last time and we talked a lot about the owners being first in, first out, and all the other stakeholders are there the whole time. And if you don't take care of the stakeholders, you'll never create wealth for your owners. So it's an entirely consistent position. And one I wanted to put in, which would be, I don't know, I think that would probably be number 6, is the 8 words of economics. Now this sounds kind of silly, but I think it sums up an awful lot of things. And the first one is there's ain't no free lunch. We've all heard that. And that one, free lunch. And that really says that there's no riskless arbitrage around. You have to work hard to make money, et cetera, et cetera. And especially in a capital market, it's very, very difficult to beat the market. Some folks obviously do, but it's very, very hard. The next thing is the other 4 words that a lot of people haven't heard, or if you think about it, is that them, that has, gets. And here you're really talking about monopoly power. And I'll put the monopoly in a quote, because I don't mean a monopoly as I think the way a lot of people think of. I'm thinking of when you're specialized and you have the ability to do some things or have some products that nobody else has. That's what works. That's how you create value. Now, again, we haven't defined that, but just sort of remember the 8 words. If you've got the 8 words going and and you're not violating that, you're in pretty good shape. Okay. Now we're going to talk about net present value. Okay. NPV is the way you usually write it, and what you really mean is the present value of a stream of cash flows net of investment. Now that we often draw a lot of diagrams, and I'll probably be doing the same thing where we have time going this way, and this is dollars, positive, negative. And the general play is that you have a downstroke, and then over the future you get some cash flows over time. Now, one of the things you'll find that in a lot of the literature, and when I'm doing it, I'll probably do the same thing, is we talk about annual flows at year end. You don't have to. You can have mid-year, you can have them continuous, you can do all sorts of things. But I think what we're really trying to do here is to point out what the principles are and what the economics are. And I think that this will suffice. Now, the problem you have is this a good deal or not? So if you tell me you're going to spend some money here, so let's say you spend 100 here, and then here you have a bunch of, say, 10s, and say each of these are 10 and they go out for a long time. Is this a good deal or not? And the only way you can do that is to figure out some way to put them on an equivalent basis. And that's the whole idea of present value. The present value is to take this stream, or to take this cash flow, and move it to here. So if this is 10, and this is, say, year 1, 2, 3, 4, then you know it's not worth 10. 10 a year from now is not the same as having 10 now. And 10 2 years from now is not the same as now. So you have to have a way of bringing it together. So we call that present value. So the present value of, say, the first cash flow, and I'll put 1 to mean year 1, is equal to that cash flow at year 1 times something. We'll call it a discount factor. That's not to be confused with the discount rate. Okay, PV of cash flow in the second period is going to be cash flow 2 times discount rate 2. Now, discount rate 2 has to be less than, discount factor, I made a mistake. Discount factor 2 has to be less than discount factor 1. And you might say, why? It's a good exercise for the reader. Think about what would happen if, in fact, this one was greater. This one was greater than this one. And I think I'll do one more. CF3 is the cash flow that happens in 3 times the discount factor for 3. And again, these are less than, by the way, these are all less than 1. Now, move up here. And generally, what you do is you refer to the first discount factor. We're going to express it as an interest rate. So it's 1 over 1 plus, and I'll use K. Now, K is often thought of as a cost of capital. But when people say, for example, if the cost of capital is 10% or we're going to 8% or something like that, there are models of this, by the way. And one of the biggest and most used is a thing called the capital asset pricing model. And we'll get into that. So when you talk about the cost of capital, I always think of it as like a bank. So if you have a 10% cost of capital, it's like you're investing money in a 10% bank. So often D1 will be 1 plus K, D2 will be 1 plus K squared, D3 will be 1 plus K to the third power, and so forth. And this is the most common way that you will see this sort of analysis. Now, people sometimes worry about, well, is the cost of capital for period 2 the same as period 1, and so forth, and you often have this, and it's certainly true with bonds, but is it really true for businesses? And I've worked with a lot of very, very smart people. In fact, a couple Nobel Prize winners come to mind. And when you say, how do you deal with the fact that the cost of capital, say, changes over time, it seems to be very difficult. Nobody can prove that works very well. But here, clearly, the discount factor, since K is also less than 1, you will see that this D1 is greater than D2 is greater than D3, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So these discount factors and these cost of capital, dealing with these things gives you the ability to bring these cash flows from the future into the present. Okay, now what I want to then do is now use this to value a stock or something. So let's consider a stock. It can be any asset. But let's say the value of the stock in period 1 is going to be the value of the stock at the beginning, or period 0. And then it's if it could earn interest in this K bank. So it should go, if this was say 100 and this is 5%, then what you'd have is 100 times 1.05, which would be 105. So that's what you'd expect this asset to do, because assets are expected to grow. Now, they might not grow, but they're expected to, and that's because we live in a world of positive interest rates. So you expect this to grow. But what if you paid out some dividends? So if you paid out some dividends at the end of the period, and say this was 3, then this would be 102. Okay, sort of running out of time on this video, but I will continue this on the next one.